Hi, greetings, fellow Slayers. Well, our look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 2 now continues on with What's My Line? Part 2. Buffy tells Kendra, who has just introduced herself as the Vampire Slayer, that she cannot be as she is the chosen one. Kendra maintains her story, so Buffy calls a truce and the two go to Giles for assistance in explaining their situation. Giles confirms that he knows of the Watcher Kendra claims to be learning under, and then realizes that she was called as a Slayer when Buffy temporarily died in her fight with the Master. Their discussion reveals that Kendra had Angel locked in a cage, leaving him to be dusted at sunrise. Buffy and Kendra arrive to find only an empty cage. Buffy fears the worst, but Kendra points out the absence of dust. Willie saves Angel from near death, only to dump him in a sewer with Spike, who pays him for it. Spike takes Angel back to the warehouse, where he'll be held until he can be sacrificed to restore Drusilla to full strength. Drusilla asks Spike to let her have fun, aka torture, with Angel. Although Spike briefly hesitates, he soon smiles and agrees, unable to resist indulging her whims. Meanwhile, as Buffy ruminates on the coexistence of two Slayers, she entertains the possibility of quitting and letting Kendra take over her Slayer duties. Giles begins to bond professionally with Kendra, who seems to be more dedicated to her calling than Buffy, on a professional, intellectual, and academic level. Her only life is slaying. Xander and Cordelia face even bigger problems when they find that the salesman that led Cordelia into the Summers house is actually an assassin who can transform himself into thousands of worms. They run hide in the basement, although before long, they're having a fight and hurling insults at each other. Abruptly they kiss, and then Xander and Cordelia rush to escape the basement, running past the assassin. At school, the career placement test has thrown Willow and Oz together, and they discuss their similar interests. Buffy, whose sister is recommended career law enforcement, attends a career fair seminar to appease Principal Snyder. The police officer leading the seminar calls Buffy's name. When Buffy identifies herself, the officer, Patrice, draws her gun and aims it at the Slayer, revealing herself as the third assassin. Buffy avoids the bullet, which instead hits Oz in the arm as he pushes Willow out of harm's way. Kendra comes to Buffy's rescue, and they fight off the attacker. The Scoobies then gather in the library, where Giles announces that Spike intends to kill Drusilla's sire in the ritual in order to restore Drusilla to full strength. Buffy reluctantly admits that Angel is Drusilla's sire, adding that Spike can do anything to her, but he better not mess with her boyfriend. Meanwhile, Angel is being tortured by Drusilla, both emotionally and physically. She pours holy water on him as she reminds him how he killed her whole family. Spike comes and announces that it's time for the ritual to begin. Angel taunts Spike with insinuations that he's had sex with Drusilla and she enjoyed it, but Spike is unable to satisfy her. He hopes that Spike will kill him before it can be used to cure Drusilla. Spike is infuriated, but does not lose sight of the big picture. Meanwhile, Kendra gains a newfound respect for Buffy's qualities as a Slayer. Later, the Slayers go after Willie to learn what happened to Angel. Buffy forces Willie to take her to the location with Spike and Angel, but Kendra refuses to accompany her because proper procedure dictates she return to tell her Watcher first, and she doesn't think they can stop the ritual alone. So Buffy alone accompanies Willie, but it's a trap. He takes her to the assassins. Then together they go to the ritual, which has already started. Spike orders Buffy's death, but at that moment, Kendra arrives to save her, along with Giles, Willow, Cordelia, and Xander. Xander and Cordelia work together in the hallway to kill the worm assassin, signaling destroyed in its disassembled state. They lure the worms underneath the door into a sticky trap and then kill him by stomping on the worms. Will and Giles work together to take a vampire while Buffy and Kendra fight Patrice and Spike. Spike starts a fire and rushes to rescue the conscious Drusilla, hoping that the ritual has had time to cure her. However, Buffy prevents their exit, crushing them and falling rubble. She rushes to the floor to help the weakened Angel, while everyone watches in awe, and she helps him exit the building, believing the fire will consume Spike and Drusilla. At school, Willow finds Oz by the vending machine where he's buying a box of animal crackers. The two have a conversation in which Willow tries to thank Oz for saving her life. He says he doesn't do thanks, and he compliments her smile in between talking about the monkey's clothes. It's soon time for Kendra and Buffy to say goodbye, with the two on friendly terms, with Kendra even wearing Buffy's shirt, although Kendra refuses to give Buffy a hug goodbye, instead it gives a smile. She tells Buffy she does not blame her for being with Angel, since he is a very beautiful man, and that slaying is not a job, it is a part of who they are. The two part ways, with Buffy feeling comforted by the knowledge she is no longer alone in her secret duty. In the ruins of the church, it is revealed that Spike has only just managed to survive, but has been severely scarred and injured. He is helped out of the rubble by Drusilla, who has been successfully cured and fully revived. She promises to return the favor and make him strong like her as she carries him out. Oh boy. So now let's take a look at some continuity surrounding this episode. Buffy's comment, "You and bug people, Xander, what's up with that?" It's a reference to the season 1 episode Teacher's Pet, in which she develops a crush on the biology substitute, who turns out to be a giant praying mantis monster. Kendra's question to Buffy, "Did anyone explain to you what secret identity means?" recalls Buffy's unexasperated observation to that same effect in the series premiere, Welcome to the Hellmouth. When Kendra learns that Buffy is attending Sunnydale High School, she speculates that she's also a cheerleader. Giles comments that she quit the cheerleading squad and that this was quite an amusing story, referring to the events of the season 1 episode Witch. This is the beginning of Xander and Cordelia's romantic relationship, which will last until Lovers Walk. Giles claims that he thought it was unnecessary to give Buffy the Slayer handbook, as he presented Buffy the handbook in their initial encounter in Welcome to the Hellmouth, but she refused it and ran away. Xander and Cordelia kill Norman Pfister together. The ones going to kill a vampire together in Anne, though more by accident. Xander makes his first solo kill in Phases, and Cordelia in Graduation Day Part 2, whereas before, they kill enemies with each other's help, or in Xander's case, a patron of the Bronze. Drusilla's restored to her full strength, having been weakened in the problem with vampires. While Spike survives, the organ crushing on him and the fire leaves him paralyzed from the waist down for 2 months. He eventually recovers on his own, though he keeps this to himself until becoming Part 2. It's revealed in the next episode that after the events of this episode, the contract on Buffy was called off and the Order of Taraka backed off. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. So let's take a look at some production notes about this movie, at least a production note. Seth Green mentioned in Ultimate TV Talk that the line, "I mock you with my monkey pants," was initially dreamed by Allison Hannigan. Joss Whedon decided to insert it in the episode. Ryan Oxon said in her commentary for the season 4 DVD that all the lines after Oz's compliment about Willow's smile were added by Seth and Allison. Oh, I did not know that. So let's take a look at some pop culture references. Buffy tells Kendra not to watch the In-Flight movie if it's about a dog or Chevy Chase. In 1988, Sarah Michelle Gellar had an uncredited cameo in the film Funny Farm, which starred Chase. Xander calls Norman Pfister Mary Kay, referencing the cosmetics company. Buffy says to Kendra, "Back off, Pink Ranger." Sophia Crawford used to be the stunt double for the Pink Power Ranger on the TV show Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Buffy also says to Kendra, "After all this is over, I think a pineapple pizza and a teen video movie fest, possibly something from the Ringwald au revoir," referring to actor Smalley Ringwald, who starred in many 1980s teen films. Spike calls Buffy Rebecca of Sunnyhill Farm, referencing the children's book Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. Xander says, "Welcome, my little pretties." This is a reference to the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, when the Wicked Witch of the West calls Dorothy my little pretty. After successfully researching the assassin he and Cordelia encountered, Xander says, "I am the Bugman, Cuckoo Cuckoo." Clearly, though incorrectly, referencing the 1967 song I Am the Walrus by the Beatles. The Beatles use the phrase Goo Goo Gajoob, while Cuckoo Cuckoo is from Simon and Garfunkel's 1968 song Mrs. Robinson. It's a common mistake, though. Upon returning to the school and seeing the aftermath of the assassination attempt on Buffy, Xander quips, "Who's Buster Gritty today? The British Soccer Fan Association?" Which is a reference to football hooliganism. And now let's take a look at some goofs. After bringing Angel to Drusilla, Spike says that all they need for the ritual is the full moon tonight. Later, Giles explains that the ritual must take place on the night of the new moon, and Kendra has that it is tonight. After Xander and Cordelia have been attacked by bugs, when Xander closes the book, crushing a worm inside, at the end of one shot, it's a great biology textbook, but in the next shot, it's a plain red book. In the very last shot of the episode, when Drusilla is carrying Spike as she leaves the church, the wire holding Spike is slightly visible. So now finally, let's take a look at some other trivia about this episode. Oz says that his current goal in life is to learn to play an E-flat diminished ninth chord. Despite his struggle, it's not an impossible chord on guitar. The EB9 chord is formed by EB, G, BB, DB, FB. With similar posed and closed, George Shanty's cover for The Time of Your Life, Part 4, if you'll notice for Future Shock, both with the Slayers Buffy and Malaka Frey, a reference to a promotional photo of Buffy and Kendra from this episode. Interesting. So overall, I think this episode is pretty good, and I like the fact that it introduces another Slayer into the mix and stuff like that, so yeah. So overall, I give What's My Line Part 2 5 Vampire Steaks out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in a bit as we take a look at the next episode, Ted. So, until then, here endeth the lesson.